Once upon a time, around 1650, there were two men. One of them lived in Delaware, and one in New Netherland. Was Swedish, Johann Prince, who ruled Delaware. The other was Dutch, Peter Stuyvesant, who wished he did. The Dutch had been the first settlers in Delaware, even though they did not remain. They had gone after whales from the Delaware coast. They had roamed the area for furs and found a great many. They had made deals with the Indians for land and trading rights. Though the Dutch finally settled north at New Netherlands, they maintained a small fort, Nassau, on the eastern side of Delaware, and felt that they still had first trading rights on the Delaware River. Meanwhile, the Swedish established Fort Christina, the first permanent settlement in Delaware. And Fort Christina was definitely Swedish. The Indians, notably shifty at this time, also sold land and trading rights to the Swedish. It made for a ticklish situation, since they had sold these rights to both Swedish and Dutch. From 1643 on, the situation grew more delicate and touchy. Both Dutch and Swedish felt that the Indians should trade only with them. And when Johann Prince became governor of New Sweden, he had very definite ideas.
We will not share this wealth with the Dutch. We will keep the Dutch completely out of Delaware, both on land and water.
Swedish ships were placed in the Delaware River to stop the Dutch from sailing south.
Turn back. You are in Swedish territory. There will be no Dutch ships on our river.
But we've always traded here. You have no right to keep us away. We paid for our rights.
And we for ours. Go back. Both this river and this land are Swedish.
Prince's policies worked well enough. He and his Swedes managed to insult and enrage the Dutch. The powers of New Netherlands found it a strain even to be polite to New Sweden. Under a surface of courtesy, they were snarling. Then in 1647, a new Dutch governor, Peter Stuyvesant, arrived in New Netherlands. Stuyvesant never let good manners stand in his way.
What is all this nonsense about the Swedish?
Mr. Stuyvesant, it is the man Prince. He has put forts to keep us out by land. He has armed yachts to keep us off the river. The Swedish monopolized the trade with the Indians. It's all there in my report.
And all ridiculous. There are more of us than of the Swedish.
Well, that does not seem to matter.
I will write to Governor Prince.
You will force me to use violence. Try it.
And so Stuyvesant went into action. His first move was made purely to see what he had against him. He sent a ship to block the Delaware River in Swedish territory. And when the Swedish approached, ready to fight, and ordered,
Get out!
the Dutch went back home.
So, they are serious. All right.
In June 1651, while 11 ships set sail from New Amsterdam, 120 soldiers, led by Stuyvesant, marched out of New Netherlands. Their destination, Delaware. They all met at Little Fort Nassau. The Indians flocked back to trade with the Dutch. The Indians were fickle about their loyalties. And when the Dutch asked the Indians to give Delaware back to them, the Indians were willing. The Dutch were so friendly to them. Things began to look uneasy for the Swedish. Governor Prince was angry and worried. The quarrel continued, but words had little meaning.
This land was sold to the Swedish by the Indian chief Middasimmit.
That is unfortunate. The land was given to the Dutch by the chief Pemanaka.
The Swedish can prove their ownership.
That hardly matters. The Dutch have proof as well.
Shall we face the issue, Mr. Stuyvesant?
By all means, Mr. Prince.
It was time for action. 5 miles below Fort Christina, Stuyvesant established Fort Casimir on the site of the present-day Newcastle. Fort Nassau was abandoned, and its people, guns, and supplies were transferred to Casimir. 200 additional men were brought in. Fort Casimir was armed to the teeth, and 2 warships were stationed in the river. It was now impossible for the Swedish to get by the Dutch without a battle, and the Swedish had second thoughts when it came to actual fighting. The Dutch had closed the Delaware River. Peter Stuyvesant went back to New Amsterdam with the air of a man who had done his work well. Prince was considerably annoyed.
May I remind you that the Swedish are the masters of the Delaware.
For the next few years, the Dutch and the Swedish continued to be bitter rivals on the Delaware. But New Sweden grew weaker. The colony lost territory, lost settlers. The Dutch seemed to be successfully swinging the Indian trade their way. New Sweden seemed forgotten and received little support from her mother country. Queen Christina did not seem aware of the small Swedish colony. Governor Johan Prince grew discouraged, disgusted, weary. And in October 1653, he left the colony he had ruled. He went home to Sweden. He never came back. An army of Dutch formed. A Dutch armada was prepared. The Indians informed Rising that the Dutch were coming, and New Sweden hastily took up arms and prepared for invasion. On September 8, 1655, the Dutch reached the fort newly called Trinity. They were prepared for violence. They would, however, be civilized. They would send a Dutch representative to meet with a Swedish representative and talk the whole thing over.
I come now on behalf of our governor, that if you now wish to give up the fort in peace, no harm shall happen to you.
And what have we, the Swedes, done to deserve this indignity?
Last year, when you arrived here, you drove away and chased off our nation from this fort, which was then called Fort Casimir, and all our colonists living around there. Therefore, we have now come again here to revenge the same, and not only to drive you out of this fort, but your whole nation, which is found here in this country.
We will not surrender.
As you like.
The shelling was mainly a Dutch effort to make an impression.
Off a bit to the left, sir.
How far?
I'd say 200 yards.
Not bad. Shall we fire again?
No one was hurt.
Splendid. Missed it completely. Once more, please.
There was a great deal of talking. The next day, the Swedish reconsidered and surrendered. The fort was again called Casimir. The Dutch again had a hold on Delaware, and so the Swedish marched to Fort Christina, but not for long. Christina, in Peter Stuyvesant's mind, was the next to go, and the remaining Swedes were too discouraged and too poorly equipped to resist the Dutch invasion. The spirit had gone out of New Sweden. By October 11th, 1655, Delaware's first permanent settlement had come to an end. Many Swedes had set sail for their mother country. Those who remained put themselves under Dutch rule. Prince, Rising, and their settlers were pieces of the past. The Dutch ruled Delaware.